Listen, a man can tell you that he loves God all day long, but how he handles people, responsibility, and conflicts will tell you the truth. Let's talk about 5 more signs of a truly godly man. Hey sis, welcome back. So this is part 2. After a few of you reached out asking me to continue this topic, so here we are. First of all, thank you all for the love that you showed on the last video. In part 1, we talked about his walk with God, his integrity, how he honors women, responsibility, and also having a backbone. So if you haven't seen that, please go and see that first so you have more context. But today, we're going a bit deeper. Let's talk about 5 more qualities of a truly godly man, ones that often go unnoticed but are really important today. Number 1, self-control. Self-control in a man is one of the clearest signs of his spiritual maturity. A man who can't control his temper, his tongue, or his impulses is dangerous. Not because he's evil, but because he's unpredictable. A godly man, though, has learned how to pause before reacting. He doesn't allow his emotions to run wild. Instead, he brings them under the authority of God because he knows that before anyone else, he is accountable to God first. Now, self-control doesn't mean that he never gets angry or frustrated. Of course not, we're all human. But it means that he knows how to handle his emotions in a healthy way. He's not led by pride, lust, greed, or ego. Instead, he chooses to be led by wisdom. Because if a man can't discipline himself in private, he will self-destruct in public. Now, a scripture I love for this point is Proverbs 16:32, which reads, "He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city." So the man who can control himself is much better than the man who controls everything else, because there will come a point where those two worlds collide. Here's an example. So say you're having an argument and things get heated. And as a side note, people who say, "Oh, I don't argue with my spouse," that's a lie, because there's no way you're always going to agree with somebody else. And having conflict doesn't mean the breakdown of the relationship. It just means that you need to know how to handle that conflict. But that's a different topic. Now back to the example. Now, instead of shouting, walking out, or throwing hurtful words, he'll take a breath and say, "Let's pause. I don't want to say anything that's going to be untowards." I have to admit, when my husband first said that to me, I was heated, right? And I was always used to that back and forth, me saying something and somebody saying something back. And when he said that, it just calmed the situation down. And I had to check myself and think, hang on a minute, do I just want to be right, or do I want us to actually reconcile and move forward? So no, when a man says that, that's not weakness, that's power under control. And a man of self-control, he'll protect your heart, he'll protect the relationship, and he'll protect the peace. Point 2, a servant heart. Now let's be honest, in today's world, everyone's more so looking out for what they can get from other people, right? But a godly man thinks differently. He understands that true greatness comes from serving others, not by being served. And by having a servant heart, I'm not saying that he's a simp. No. It doesn't mean that he's passive or weak or a slave. It means that he's choosing to lead with love, which is what agape is. And that's the love that Christ displayed to us when he died for us on the cross. A man of a servant heart doesn't do things to keep score or seeking praise. He's willing to wash the dishes, pray with you, help out with the chores, volunteer, or sacrifice his comfort because love is an action word. And you know it's genuine because he serves when nobody else is watching. Now, a verse I love for this point is Matthew 20:26, which reads, "Yet it shall not be so among you, but whoever desires to become great among you, let him be your servant." And that's what Jesus said. And remember, he's the example. Now, speaking of example, imagine your man is exhausted after work, and instead of shutting everyone out, he takes the time to check in with you to ask how you're doing, or to listen if you're struggling about something. That's a servant heart. His love shows through his service, and that's the kind of love that builds strong families and healthy relationships. And that, in essence, is agape, which is a sacrificial, unconditional love, which is also a choice. 3, emotional maturity. Now, this is such an underrated quality, I find, because a godly man will know how to feel without letting his feelings rule him. Now, there are 2 sides to this. You can either be emotionally unavailable or you can be overly reactive. And he's neither. He's right in the middle. He's balanced. Instead, he communicates clearly, he He takes responsibility for his emotions, and he also creates a safe space for yours. Now, an emotionally mature man doesn't use silence as punishment or anger as control. And me personally, I grew up in a home where silence was used as punishment all the time. And also, he doesn't gaslight, manipulate, or retreat when things get uncomfortable. Instead, he listens, he reflects, and he'll work through issues with grace and honesty. And a verse I love for this is Proverbs 25:28, which reads, "Whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down without walls." Now, as an example, imagine he's had a stressful day at work and you can tell that he's not himself. Now, instead of snapping at you or shutting down completely, he'll say something to you like, "Sweetheart, I'm not in the best headspace right now and I don't want to take it out on you. Can we talk a bit later when I've been able to clear my mind?" That right there is emotional maturity. When my husband first said that to me, oh my gosh, the respect went like woof, because I knew where he was and I respected where he was, and I knew that he wasn't avoiding the conversation. And it also taught me that if somebody wants to have a conversation with me in that moment and I can't emotionally have that conversation, it wasn't by force or fire. I also had that self-control to be able to say to them, "I'm not able to have this conversation right now. Can we pause and I'll come back to you when I'm ready?" The peace. So it put up that healthy boundary, because I didn't see that growing up. Because if your man is able to say that to you, it's also saying that I respect you enough for me to handle my emotions before I come and speak to you. Number 4, kindness. Oh, this one's so big. Because kindness is one of the purest reflections of God's character. And here's the thing, right? Because a truly kind man isn't kind to you because he wants something in return. Like, think of the Good Samaritan. He didn't get anything back, but he still gave. So the man that you're considering is kind because that's who he is, and that's his heart posture. Now, a godly man's kindness, I'm not talking about the big grand gestures that you see on social media. No, I'm talking about the little things. How he talks to strangers, how he treats people who can't offer him anything, how he is when he's handling disappointment. You'll see it in the tone of his voice, the patience of his actions, and the softness in how he approaches people. Now, kindness doesn't mean that he's soft or naive. It means that he's secure enough in himself to not tear other people down. Now, it's easy to be nice when things are going well, but real kindness shows up when things are uncomfortable or inconvenient. Now, a verse I love for this, one of my favorite books, Ephesians 4:32, which reads, "And be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another even as God in Christ forgave you." Now, here's an example. You're out to eat and the service is really slow, like slow. And you can see that the waitress has rushed off her feet. It's probably her in the whole restaurant, right? Now, some people just roll their eyes, complain, or just walk straight out. But this guy, he smiles. He thanks the server and he says to them, "Don't worry, I see you've got a lot on. Just take your time." That small moment shows such big character, because if he can be kind in the small things, he will be compassionate in the big things too. I promise you. And the last one, 5, hardworking. Now let me put my coffee down to say this. A hardworking man is not defined by the amount of money he makes. It's about his work ethic, his consistency, and his sense of responsibility, like we spoke about in the previous video. Because hard work isn't just about career or income, it's about effort. The way he shows up for his dreams, his family, and most importantly, what God has called him to do in his life. A lazy man will wait for opportunities to appear and then complain when they don't fall on his lap. But a hardworking man creates them by his faithfulness, his diligence, and his trusting in the Lord. He's not looking for shortcuts. He's willing to grind with the grace of God. And here's the key. He doesn't just work hard at his job. He also works hard at himself. He's growing spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. And he's not the same man he is today than he was this time last year. You can always see a development in his character and who he is as a person, as a man. And a verse I love for this is Colossians 3:23, which reads, "And whatever you do it heartily, as to the Lord and not to men." Love that. And here's an example. Maybe he's not in his dream job yet, but he's studying, applying, learning, and pushing forward anyway. Or maybe he's currently working a job that he doesn't love, but he's still giving it his best because he knows that that's the job that God has provided to him right now, and it's also providing stability. Like, if you just think of King David, how many women would have turned him down as he was a shepherd, but would have chased after him when he was king? You can't pick and choose just because you don't want to be part of a certain point in this man's journey. If the man that you're considering is hardworking in this way, that's maturity. Because the same discipline that he applies at work will be the same discipline that he applies to himself, to his relationship with you, and ultimately to your family. So sis, as you're praying and preparing for the future, remember this one thing. It's not just about attraction or potential. Look for the fruit, because Jesus says you will know them by their fruit. Look for self-control, look for a servant heart, look for emotional maturity, look for kindness, look for hard work. Now, these aren't flashy traits, but they are the ones that matter, because these are the traits that will sustain a relationship through every season. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, you get the point. Because money can change, looks can fade, but his character, that's what will last a lifetime. Now, if you haven't watched part 1 yet, please go and check that out on my channel. I'll be back with another video soon. Blah, blah, I talk too much. And if you haven't yet, please like, comment, subscribe, share, all those good things, because that really does help me so I can keep putting out this content for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on here really soon.